This is a really amazing part of the world geologically. We have a really nice gold-rich system. And this is a truly new discovery now. We're working in an area called the Kirianga Complex. The opportunities here and the way to make value for shareholders, in my view, is to go make additional discoveries and show it's not just one deposit, but multiple deposits.
Kalo Gold Corp has paid Pinnacle Digest for marketing services, including producing and disseminating this video. Pinnacle Digest's parent company owns shares and warrants of Kalo Gold Corp. This is not investment advice. Please read the full disclosure at the end of this video.
Major new gold discoveries are becoming increasingly rare, yet demand for the precious metal recently hit record highs. That tension and the drive for new discoveries is pushing explorers into places few might expect. Places like Fiji. When most people picture Fiji, they see turquoise waters, palm-lined beaches, and coastlines that draw travelers from around the world. What few may realize, however, is that this island nation also lies within the expansive Pacific Ring of Fire, the same geological belt that hosts some of the world's most significant gold deposits. Parts of Fiji are underlain by volcanic-related gold systems, including epithermal veins and breccia deposits, the same mineralization styles seen at well-documented mines such as the Martha Mine in New Zealand and the Kellyan Mine in Indonesia. Fiji itself has a long mining history. The Vatu mine has produced more than 7 million ounces of gold and counting, and the Vatu mine recently commenced production on the country's main island. But here, on Vanuatu, the northern island where I stand today, a gold exploration program is well underway, focused on evaluating whether this particular project has district-scale potential. This is the Vatu Aurum Project, 367 square kilometers of volcanic terrain, 100% owned by Kalo Gold. According to the company, historical work and its recent field programs have outlined multiple epithermal targets within the property. This past summer, Kalo Gold raised $5.8 million with participation from Silvercorp Metals and Crescat Capital. With this funding, the company launched a drilling campaign and recently announced its first assay results, marking a new chapter in Kalo Gold's exploration journey. We'll hear directly from Kalo's leadership on what those results mean and how they fit into the broader exploration strategy. Gold exploration is inherently uncertain, and there is no guarantee of discovery or an economic deposit. This is one reason why a systematic, scientific approach and experienced leadership matters in this game. Each work program, each round of drilling, sampling, and mapping adds to the geological understanding of this project and helps refine its evolving model. Leading Kalo Gold on how it advances its exploration strategy is Terry Tucker, President and CEO, a professional geoscientist with more than 30 years of international experience spanning 5 continents. He has advanced projects from discovery through feasibility and development. First off, Terry, thanks for having us. The staff at camp has been super hospitable and made us feel very welcome. I want to jump right into things. Gold just hit yet another record high, and Kalo Gold happened to just announce assay results from your recent drill campaign, including some very high-grade results. Now, I know it's early days and a few holes don't define a deposit, but tell us what these exploration results mean and how they help guide you moving forward.
This is a really amazing part of the world geologically, and we've been working for over a year now and trying to understand and really get our hands on this geology here and trying to build a new geological model and take 30 years of exploration data, put it together, really apply proper geological science. And our recent hole we announced, hole 11, was a really great hole. We had a nice 22-meter interval of just over 12 grams per ton. Super hole that included a nice bonanza grade interval of about 7 meters of 35 grams per ton. And in our view, this has really been the validation of our geological model. And this is a truly new discovery now. We're working in an area called the Kirianga Complex. It's an area that we had sort of originally not started to focus on, but we've now moved more into this area and starting to look at this area as sort of a near surface, quite high grade potential gold system.
This is a massive project, 367 square kilometers. Let's get into the historical work. There is a historical resource here. Where was that resource, the historical resource, in relation to your latest drilling results?
Yeah, well, that hill right there just happens to be what's called Kirianga Hill. There's a historical resource here of just over 100,000 ounces, and just the hill that's just in front of us here is about another 40,000 ounces. And these were the historical resource estimates that were primarily done by Placer Dome in the early 90s, and TVI Pacific did a lot of work here in the early 2000s. They did a lot of work. They did metallurgy, engineering. They wanted to build a small mine here. That was really the focus in the early 90s and with TVI Pacific. But that's not the story, right? Like that's a deposit that sits right at the surface, and now we have been focusing on where did that deposit come from. And now we understand there's a type of mineralization or a structure called a diatreme. These are what can host really nice gold deposits all through Indonesia and the Philippines. There's lots of other comparable deposits. And we started to figure out that we needed to start to drill test those diatremes. And that's what some of our drill holes did this year, and hole 11 was one of the ones that looks like we tagged right into the top of it. That diatreme extends down over 400 meters depth. We need to go and drill it and figure out what's going on.
And how deep did you go with the recent drilling?
We intersected at about 50 meters depth. So
would you say that's shallow?
That's really, it's really shallow. I mean, to have an interval at that depth, that's not very normal.
No.
But it proved that our model works.
So as a layman, when I think about a diatreme, I think kind of shaped like an ice cream cone.
Yeah, it's a perfect analogy.
Okay, so I'm on the right track here. So given that your latest round of drilling showed high grade, relatively shallow, is the belief or the theory right now that if you go deeper, it potentially gets higher grade, or what's the theory? What's the process now?
So the most important part of that interval is that it showed me as a geologist is that we have a really nice gold-rich system. And so what we need to do now is that we need to figure out where the plumbing system goes to at depth. And we know from our geophysics that there's a really nice big regional fault that hits this diatreme at about 395 meters to be exact depth. So what I need to do now is start to test that whole down dip extent of that diatreme, and we'll start to figure out whether or not we can actually reproduce these high grades that we've got in this shallow hole in hole 11. But what's really cool about this project is that we now understand that there's probably around about 12 to 15 other diatremes on the property that are all within about a 2 square kilometer area, even a little bit less. And the soil geochemistry suggests that we probably have a lot of other similar diatremes that have a similar geochemical signature and obviously an exact geophysical signature as to the one that we made the discovery on.
Why don't we go up to the drill site and see what's going on over there?
Absolutely.
So Terry, we're at target QC1. This is the location that just came back with very high grade assays. Yep. And you are not wasting any time. You've already got another drill being set up right now. Tell us what's going on here.
So we decided, following that really great results that we announced last week, what we're going to work on now is we're going to start to try to define the perimeters of this diatreme and start to understand our epithermal plumbing system. So where is that gold mineralization coming from at depth? And ideally starting to follow that down to the Loma Fault, which is about 400 meters below the surface.
So junior exploration, there's no guarantees, there's risks. How do you potentially mitigate some of those risks at a project like Vatu Aurum?
Well, the cool thing about Vatu Aurum is that it's kind of a project that just keeps on giving. We have a lot of targets. So whenever we're doing this work on trying to understand these diatremes, we realized that there was probably around 12 to 15 other diatremes that look very similar to this QC1 diatreme. So that in itself is one of our big picture targets that we can continue to follow up. In fact, that's probably where we're going to start to focus some of our drilling as we go forward here, is that we may not start chasing this up at 400 meters depth. Those are long, expensive holes. We'll probably start to focus on the nearer surface potential mineralization as we go forward here in Kirianga complex. To mitigate the risk on the bigger picture, on the Namalao trend, the Loma Buca trend, you and I haven't even talked about those other targets. It's kind of the original big epithermal field. It's about 5 square kilometers. There's some 25 major, what I call upwelling zones, which are really, really interesting geologically. They show really great pathfinder geochemistry at surface. High mercury, high arsenic, high antimony, which suggests to me that those fluids have had to come from somewhere at depth. And as we talked about earlier, it looks like we can start to follow those up with not only shallow holes, but ultimately, once we build a model, then we can start to chase these up deeper.
So there's multiple targets you'd like to go after here. I would assume that the ideal situation is you finish this round of drilling, release the results to market, and then go back to the market for potentially new capital. In the past, and this past summer, when gold prices were quite a bit lower, you guys announced, I think it was like a $4 million raise, and it upsized again, and you ended up raising about 5.8 million. So you clearly have a substantial network. Tell us about some of the investors who participated in the summer.
The initial news release was 2 million, then we upsized it to 4, and then it ended up closing at, like you said, 5.8. That was really on the back of some very key institutional shareholders. Crescat was an important one, which was really a very positive support. We had a really good meeting with Kevin and the team at Crescat. Quinton Henney had a really good look at the geology that we've got here. The other really important group, really large group out of Dubai that's been really supportive, very good technical team. Some really great high net worths in Zurich, Scandinavian countries, Eastern Canada, the Caribbean, and then into Vancouver. Silvercorp was one of our major lead orders as well.
Fiji. It's not necessarily the first place that comes to mind when people think about gold exploration and mining, right?
Yeah, given our backdrop here, right?
Yeah, it's just a stunningly beautiful country.
It's so nice.
It's amazing. And I think most people see it as this beautiful country with beautiful beaches, but there's a lot more to it than that. What are some of the advantages and the challenges of operating here in Fiji?
Fiji, I mean, this is probably one of the most favorite countries I've worked in for a long time. The Mineral Resources Department, Minister of Mines, Department of Environment, everyone's been super supportive. They work with us, and maybe you need to do work and get a permit renewed or something like this, they'll really work with you to ensure that you can achieve those goals. And they understand what it's important for me as a CEO, what I can represent to shareholders. For example, can you get a title opinion? I mean, that's sometimes half the battle for little juniors nowadays. Right. Can you get a title opinion that's clean, right? So that's something that we work with the government really well on. And then the bigger picture with Fiji itself, and something that not a lot of people know, is that there's a project here. It used to be called the Emperor Mine, now it's called Vatu. This is a mine that's produced over 7 million ounces of gold to date. It's operated since the 30s. Lion One operates the Vatu Project on the South Island, not far from the airport in Nandi, for example. So, that project was permitted in a very short period of time, less than 2 years.
That's unheard of.
It's really
North America.
Not common, right?
Yeah.
For sure. So that shows that, if you want to come here and you want to do the right work and you want to do it the right way, and within the guidelines of the Department of Environment and Mineral and Resources Department, then you can get things done.
So there's not yet a compliant 43-101 resource estimate on the project. What would it take to potentially achieve that?
So in the short term, my focus will be is putting together a larger scale story on what's called the Aurum epithermal field, and trying to identify not just the QC1 target as one of the diatremes that has mineralization, but potentially some of the other ones as well that we've identified. And then starting to look at the Namalau trend as a potential more deeper target zone. So in the short term, my goal isn't to define a compliant resource here. The opportunities here and the way to make value for shareholders, in my view, is to go make additional discoveries and show it's not just one deposit, but multiple deposits.
All right, so I think we have a pretty good breakdown of the near-term plans here at the project. It's getting pretty hot out, so why don't we head back to camp and talk about more of the bigger picture. All right, Terry, we're back at camp at the core shack. I want to zoom out a little bit. You've obviously had a lot of success throughout your career. You don't have to be here. What drew you specifically to this project and its geological potential?
What I'll do, Aaron, is I'm going to show you a nice map that gives a good summary of one of the key reasons that I think that this is a great property and why I came here. The property itself sits on the North Island of Fiji, covers 370 square kilometers, some $25 to $30 million worth of historical exploration work. Most of the work had been done on an area called Aurum Prime, and we really focused a lot of our effort over the last year on really trying to define and build up a geological model on Aurum Prime. That work resulted in a compilation of geochemistry, soils, mapping, sampling, trenching, you name it, that's been done, where we ended up defining what's called the Aurum epithermal field. This field has some 20 plus epithermal gold targets. We've now realized that there's a number of targets that are called Diatremes. This sits in an area called the Kirianga complex. This is a really interesting area. And the drilling that we've done over the last 3 months really focused on only 2 of the epithermal targets, one called Dua and one called Rua. They've the only two that have been tested, and we've only to date tested QC1 with actual drilling itself. So with the discovery at QC1, with the recent hole that's been announced, that's kind of left the door open for us to continue our exploration work, not only on the Namalau, Loma, Buka trends and this big regional story, but also in this area called Kirianga Complex.
For somebody hearing about Kalo Gold for the very first time, how would you sum up this project and, most importantly, what you're trying to achieve here?
Make discoveries of economic gold deposits. That's absolutely our key goal and role that we're here for and spending shareholders' money on. We've been really fortunate. Our drill program this year, to date, we've only drilled 11 holes. We've only drilled 3 targets of some 20 plus targets that we've got on the property. Hole 11, a really nice high-grade hole, as we talked about this morning. That hole's drilled into a target called QC1. It's one of about 10 plus diatremes that we know are on the property. In addition to that, we've only drilled 2 of some 14 or 15 other epithermal gold targets that we've got out in what's called the Aurum epithermal field. We've only drilled 2 targets, one called Dua, one called Rua. Those definitely have great indications that there's something at depth, and we know that we're high in the system, and we need to continue to drill not only those at depth, but also all the other targets that are at surface.
Best of luck, Terry.
Thanks.
Having recently hit new all-time highs, gold tends to attract safe haven demand when uncertainty rises. Yet major new discoveries are increasingly rare. A new chapter for explorer Kalo Gold is now well underway. The company's 2025 program isn't about instant answers, but about systematically narrowing in, trenching, soils, drilling, each step sharpening Kalo Gold's understanding of this project. And while there are no guarantees in the exploration business, the company's recent assays certainly support continued exploration at the Vatu Aurum Gold Project here in Fiji.